I'm speaking with Owen Libby, Principal, Alternative Credit at Blue Owl Capital, all the way from New York. Owen, welcome to Cape Schanck and the Inside Network's Alternative Symposium.
It's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me, James.
Great pleasure to have you. Owen, we've seen alternative credit grow over the past decade at quite a rate. For advisors not currently allocating to it, where would you see it sitting in the portfolio and the role that it can play? If you were speaking to one of those advisors, how would you sum up the opportunity?
Well, historically, we've been positioned with our institutional clients as a complement to direct lending, just given the fact that it behaves differently. It's a unique return stream to incorporate into a portfolio. The duration profile tends to be much lower in that kind of 2 to 3 year weighted average life range. And also the cash flows behave differently in that what we do, at least, they amortize, meaning we get principal and interest back from our counterparties, whereas traditional corporate credit and direct lending in particular, those are structured as bullet maturities where you make a loan, you collect a series of interest payments, and then you have to refinance the entirety of the principal at the end. And so the output of that in a portfolio tends to be much less correlated to things that are likely already in there, like the S&P, direct lending, high yield, et cetera. So a complement to direct lending is a natural sort of positioning of our product. And then also we've had a lot of advisors throw in the towel on traditional fixed income allocations that have maybe struggled over the last handful of years. Things like, that special sits fixed income, EM debt, high yield, that's maybe sector focused and underperformed. So it's been sort of a pull and replace for that as well.
What are the market forces, Owen, that are most supportive of private credit today? And conversely, what are the key headwinds that advisors really have to be aware of?
Yeah, well, within asset-based finance, which is what we focus on within alternative credit specifically, the biggest driving force has been bank retrenchment. And what you really saw was post-global financial crisis in that kind of 2009, 2010 range, there was a series of regulatory reforms that really trimmed the ears back on banks in terms of the amount of risk that they could take. So generally, they were no longer in the storage business, they're in the moving business. They want to syndicate loans and securitizations and collect fees on that. They're no longer incentivized to hold risk on their balance sheet. There's a void of capital to finance the businesses and the operations that we supply capital to, and that's really been a massive and growing business. So the addressable market of originated assets today within asset-based finance that we have fluency and experience investing in is north of 11 trillion. And there's less than, we call it kind of conservatively 500 billion of fund manager AUM addressing it today. So that's a really compelling supply-demand imbalance. And obviously, we think there's higher barriers to entry and a natural moat around new entrants coming into the space just because it is such a specialized asset class. We feel great about our position because we've been doing it for 20 years. In terms of where advisors need to be careful in terms of risks is really just less experienced players, how much leverage they're putting on the transactions, how much yield they're reaching for. And in an environment where everything is priced relatively tight, you just don't want to be caught reaching for yield.
In September last year, the Inside Network took the INUSA study tour to the US, and we were very kindly hosted by yourselves at Blue Owl. And one of the things that really struck our group in your presentations was just how broad and diverse is the asset class and some of the really granular and highly niche exposures that managers like yourselves can tap into. Given that breadth and diversity of private credit, what aspects of asset quality and deal structure matter the most for somebody doing due diligence?
Yeah, well, I think that's specific to alternative credit. That's what I am personally most excited about. When people hear private credit, they immediately think of direct lending, and the asset class is not a monolith. So we feel like with alternative credit and asset-based finance specifically, we're offering access to a different part of the private credit ecosystem. We like to think of what we're doing as helping finance Main Street. And so if you follow the money on how we're generating our returns, where we found the most durable scale and alpha across hard assets and financial assets, just thinking of the universe very simply, it tends to come from 3 sources. On the hard asset side, it's mission critical equipment leasing, so things like assembly lines, servers, medical equipment. And then within financial assets, it's consumer finance, so people, and small businesses. And so that's about 70% of what we do on any given year. And then tactically, we'll do some other things in the margins if there's a macro green light, things like aviation and residential finance. Just to put a finer point on it, what I'm most excited about with this asset class specifically is that I think, to your point, James, there's 31 different flavors of things that you can do within asset-based finance and areas that you can focus. We've found the three that we tend to sort of be in the middle of our fairway. But I just think relative to other evergreen private credit and private real estate investment options, because of the nature of the fact that it is so broad, you're going to see more top to bottom performance dispersion between the best and worst managers. And I think we're very well positioned to be in the top quartile.
Owen, how should advisors think about balancing attractive income with the risks such as liquidity and possibly concentration risk?
So without question, we were very thoughtful when we took our institutional quality portfolio and structured it in the interval fund vehicle that we've rolled out to serve the wealth channel with our offering. Asset and liability alignment is paramount when you're structuring semi-liquid evergreen offerings. The reason that we felt very comfortable translating what we have done institutionally for 20 years into a semi-liquid evergreen offering for the private wealth channel is the fact that from an investment standpoint, what we're doing is short duration, amortizing. Most of our performance comes from yields that we pay monthly. And so running an interval fund that requires a minimum of 5% liquidity per quarter and a lower ceiling on the amount of leverage we can use, there's no portfolio management sort of level of uncomfortability there to translate that well into this vehicle. So we felt like it was the appropriate structure for us to manage the strategy in.
If you're an advisor that's really prioritizing resilient income rather than headline yield, what to that advisor would you think best practice credit selection really looks like?
Look, obviously there's a proof of work that I would take comfort in if I was a wealth manager and allocating capital. And the first question I would be is, show me your track record, right? Show me your proof of work. Are you building the plane as you're flying it, or have you done this for a durable amount of time? I think for us, we're very proud of the fact that our loss ratio is very low. It's less than 10 basis points over a 13-year period, and we've been able to generate essentially a low double-digit net return. And so that proof of work is what would give me peace of mind personally, and it's what I would encourage advisors to ask as sort of a gating question.
Owen Libby from Blue Owl Capital, Principal in Alternative Credit. Again, a great pleasure to have you here at Cape Schanck, Owen.
Thanks so much, James. Love being here.